All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review, where we're going through our latest set of RBT exam practice questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Looking for our study materials, check out btexamreview.com, practice exam study guides, and of course, our famous combo pack. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. Question 1. Prior to Christmas break, several of the students no longer requested to play on the computer for their break time. After 2 weeks of vacation, all of the students began requesting computer time again. What occurred during vacation? The question is very important here because it's specifying what time frame you're looking at. On the RBT exam, you want to be very specific about what behavior or what time or what antecedent or what consequence you're looking at. The question is asking about what occurred during vacation. So we know prior to vacation, they stopped making requests. On 2 weeks of vacation passed, once vacation was over, the students came back and began requesting computer time again. So what possibly occurred on vacation where all of a sudden students are now requesting computer time again when they had stopped altogether? A, deprivation. Deprivation is a type of motivating operation manipulation where we withhold something or you don't get much of something. And if we think about the students' vacation, they didn't get computer for break time at school because they weren't at school. And so during the 2 weeks of vacation, what most likely occurred was they were deprived of this computer break time, whatever the break time was as a student. What about B, satiation? Satiation is when you get too much of something. Well, we don't believe they were satiated on break time after vacation. Before vacation, certainly it seemed like they were satiated. If they no longer requested to play on computer for their break time, most likely they had too much of it. They became satiated. So you have to understand the difference between deprivation and satiation. Deprivation says you're not getting something. You're not getting enough of something, making you want that something even more. Satiation says you've gotten too much of something, making you want that thing even less. So before Christmas, they were satiated. 2 weeks go by, they're deprived. All of a sudden, they want it again. What occurred during vacation? Well, deprivation. Reinforcement and punishment don't really play a role here because we're not looking at the consequences during those 2 weeks of vacation. We're just talking about in general, relative to break time, they were deprived, making it more valuable once they came back from vacation. You ask a client to grab the red block and they end up kicking the red block. What skill needs to be addressed? Now, you're given an SD. Grab the red block. Client goes to the red block, but they kick it. Is that a discrimination issue? Think about that for a second. Remember, discrimination is also stimulus discrimination. Discrimination is identifying between different stimuli. You said go to the red block. They went to the red block. It wasn't a discrimination issue. If we look at B, we have differentiation. Response differentiation is like discrimination except for responses. So if discrimination is a difference between stimuli, differentiation is a difference between responses. So if he kicked instead of grabbed, he's done the wrong response. The client needs to differentiate better between their responses. C, aggression. Aggression is not defined at all in this question. You can't just pick aggression. We need a definition for aggression. Aggression doesn't really fit given our information. And then D, functional communication. We didn't ask the client to communicate anything. We simply asked them to grab the red block. They kicked the red block. So they discriminated correctly. They picked the right block. They just engaged in the wrong response. So what skill needs to be addressed? Well, response differentiation. We need to help the client better differentiate their responses. A 4-year-old started to speak in full sentences, saying things like, "Can I have a cookie?" Her parents would reward her with the request. Yesterday, the client learned how to open the pantry and get her own snack and has since stopped making requests. What most likely happened? Okay, this is pretty common with behavior. Remember, multiple behaviors can meet the same function, and the behaviors that are reinforced are the ones that typically persist throughout life. In this case, we have a 4-year-old speaking in full sentences. Can I have a cookie? Fantastic. Getting rewarded for it. However, now this client starts to open the pantry and get her own snack, she no longer has to make requests, and she hasn't, because why? All she has to do is go to the pantry, get her own snack. That's way easier than asking for a cookie, and you can just go get whatever you want. So what's most likely happened here? A, the client's behavior of going into the pantry was reinforced. Well, sure, the client opens the pantry, she gets the snack is reinforcement. Easily, the behavior of going into the pantry was reinforced. What about B? The client's speaking behavior was put on extinction. Well, not necessarily. The parents still reward her with the request. She just no longer makes them. Extinction would be if the client says, "Can I have a cookie?" and the parents withhold the cookie. That's not what's occurring. The client has simply stopped making the request. No extinction has taken place. C, the client's speaking behavior was punished. Again, you can't punish something or put something on extinction if it's not occurring. And there's no response anymore. She's not even saying, "Can I have a cookie?" So you can't put her on extinction. You can't punish it. You can't deliver a consequence. D, the client lost the ability to speak in full sentences. No, just because behavior decreases doesn't mean the person lost the ability to do that thing. It's a very big misconception. Again, just because behavior decreases doesn't mean that person lost the ability to do whatever that behavior was. What simply happened was this client engaged in a different behavior that met the same function, and that behavior was reinforced, leading to that other behavior ceasing. So what most likely happened? Well, A, the client's behavior of going into the pantry was reinforced. At an initial client intake, your supervisor asks you to take event recording data while they sit down and ask the family some questions about their history. You're taking what kind of data, and your supervisor is taking what kind of data. All right, let's reread that. Okay, the question is asking about the data you're taking and your supervisor. So we have to answer two questions here. So we know we're at an initial client intake. Your supervisor wants you to take event recording data. What kind of data is event recording data? Well, event recording data is direct data because you need to directly observe that client. The supervisor sits down and interviews the family. They ask them some questions about their history. What kind of data is a sit-down interview or asking questions? Indirect data. So if you're taking direct data and your supervisor is taking indirect data, then you are taking direct and your supervisor is taking indirect. A, direct. Well, it's not direct because an interview or asking questions to the family is not direct. B, direct, indirect is what we're looking for. C, indirect. Event recording is not indirect. D, indirect. Again, you're not taking indirect data. You are taking direct. Your supervisor is taking indirect. So what kind of data? B. It's a new year and we are ready to get back into shape before beach season starts. Our significant others tells us they will give us $10 for each pound we lose. How are we likely going to measure weight loss? Let's think about this. What is going to be the best way for us to measure weight loss? Because we have another person involved, right? We have our significant other who needs to measure our weight loss for each pound we lose. Now, is our significant other going to be able to observe everything we eat, every time we weigh ourselves, all the things that go along with losing weight? Well, no, but they still need to know if we lose pounds. So how can you measure something without having to actually see the things occur? A, rate. Well, rate, we're going to need frequency and time. This isn't a how quickly we can lose the weight challenge, right? So we're not really worried too much about the rate, okay? Because every pound we lose $10 regardless of the speed. B, duration. Again, it doesn't matter how long it takes us to lose these pounds. We just want to start losing pounds. And again, we need some sort of measurement where the significant other doesn't have to observe us except when we weigh ourselves. Or even then, they don't have to even observe us weighing ourselves. We can just show them the number. So C, frequency. Well, you could measure pound loss by frequency, okay? But what's going to be an easier way to do that, right? Without having to observe all the things we eat, all the times we measure ourselves, where we can just show the number to our significant other. Well, D, permanent product. Permanent product is going to be the ultimate result of all of our behavior, our diet, our exercise is all going to lead to a permanent product, which is a perfect way to measure this, right? Because it doesn't matter how we get it done. We're not worried about that. We're only worried about what our behavior produces and the outcome. So when you're worried about what the behavior produces and the outcome, then you're going to want to look at permanent product. So how are we likely going to measure weight loss? Well, D, permanent product. What is not necessarily true when using discrete trial training? So remember, discrete trial training, there's a clear beginning and an end. We give an SD, we give consequences, there's a pause. It's a great way to teach new skills. It's not great for generalization and maintenance. These are kind of the lists we go through in our heads as we're reviewing these questions. The question is asking about something that is not true when using DTT. So A, the instructor is able to provide lots of reinforcement quickly. This is true. That's one of the benefits of DTT. We can quickly give a lot of reinforcement. You can run 10, 12 trials in a minute and get a lot of reinforcement going. B, many response can be observed in a short amount of time. Again, that is true, right? We can run a lot of trials very quickly. Another benefit of DTT. C, skills will generalize more easily after discrete trial training. Now, that isn't necessarily true. And why is that? Well, because DTT is typically very controlled, very contrived, very managed. It's typically done in the same environment, same table, using the same stimuli. It's to teach skills typically, right? So we're not really teaching towards generalization. We're trying to teach something new. And that doesn't make it bad or good. It just makes it a specific type of teaching. So even though discrete trial teaching doesn't encourage generalization, it doesn't make it the worst thing, right? It's just not necessarily true about DTT. And then D, discrete trial training is great for new skill development. That is very true. If you're teaching a new skill, DTT is fantastic. What is not necessarily true when using discrete trial training? It's going to be C. Skills will generalize more easily after discrete trial training. You're leading a group of students through different gross motor activities. You say, copy me, and then jump up and down. You say, do this, and then clap your hands. The students are engaging in what? We've done different types or variations of this question before because we think it's a very important concept. Question is basically indicating the difference between modeling, receptive instructions, and imitation. And you need to know the difference between the three. Modeling is when you are showing someone how to do something, right? You're modeling the behavior for them. Imitation is when somebody is copying what you're doing in the moment without verbal instruction. And then receptive instructions or listener behavior is when you tell someone to do something and they do it. So you need to know the difference between those three things. In this case, you're leading students through different gross motor activities, and you say, copy me, jump up and down. You say, do this, and clap your hands. If you're telling them what to do, is that modeling, receptive instructions, or imitation? So it's going to be receptive instructions or listener behavior. If you're telling someone what to do, that's not modeling. Modeling would be just jumping up and down. Modeling would be just clapping your hands. Imitation would be you jumping up and down, just jumping up and down, and then they jump up and down. You are telling them what to do. Copy me, do this. These are receptive instructions or listener behavior. Understand the difference between modeling, receptive instructions, and imitation. It's clearly not shaping. Shaping is just reinforcing approximations and not what we're doing here. If you're craving chicken Parmesan, what must be present before you can get your chicken Parmesan? All right, little fundamental question here. Check your fundamentals. What signals reinforcement is available? What signals of consequence is available? Because you might want chicken Parmesan more than anything, but what if you're stuck in a car on a long car ride, right? There's nothing saying, well, chicken Parmesan is available. Unless you drive by, let's say, an Italian restaurant, and they have a sign that says chicken Parmesan is available. Now we have what? We have an SD. So what has to be present before you can get your chicken Parmesan? A motivating operation. Motivating operation is only going to increase or decrease the value of something. It's going to make you want or not want, but it isn't going to signal it's available. B, an SD is going to signal if something is or isn't available. If there's an SD for chicken Parmesan, then you can get your chicken Parmesan. So before you can get your chicken Parmesan, an SD must be present. C, a prompt. Well, no, we need just an SD. And D, a consequence. What a chicken Parmesan would be consequence. So the SD signals something is available. So what must be present before you can get your chicken Parmesan will be an SD. All right, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let us know when you pass your exam. As always, work hard, study hard, and we'll see you soon.